Good morning, it's day 13, and today's a day that I slept in really late, well, till 9, and laid in bed for a while after that. I'm not planning on doing that much today. We do have a brew cruise at 5, so I'm going with Jordan and Shar on this cruise of the bay where we get to taste different beers, local beers, and I'm excited about that. My hair is wild today. It's just big. And I am going to work on this. I'm going to continue on, hopefully make some really good progress on all the birds in the sky today because I'd like to get it done. I'm still not quite awake yet, so I'll give you more of an update later on when I do something or have something to say. We had a relaxing, slow morning. We went to my favorite bakery, but they were closed because apparently now they're only open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But we ended up finding this new cafe that we've never been to before, which was really cute. We picked up our stuff and left, but we're thinking about going back there for try a chapter and a coffee at some point and really being able to enjoy the cafe a little bit longer because it was cute. It was cute and the food was really good. We liked what we got. We got the dill and cheese biscuit. I didn't show you the actual scone, but we got an orange and currant scone. And the coffee was good too. So we're really happy with that place. And we want to go back and try some of the other food they have there. I've been reading off and on since I got home and just kind of taking it easy, doing quite a bit of reading. So I'm currently like almost 2/3 of the way through this one. I've been making some pretty good progress. And it's so interesting because this is definitely not a plot-heavy story at all. It's about these two characters. It's about their relationship with each other. It's about what makes them unique. There's really nobody else in their lives who understands them or is willing to understand them the way they understand each other. But it's just such a funny relationship because it's not like they are warm with each other, you know what I mean? It's not like a relationship I would have with my friends or my family or a romantic partner. It just feels like there's so many caveats and like there's this element that keeps them coming back to each other, keeps them friends, keeps them connected, and yet it doesn't feel that strong. You know, it feels like something could go wrong and the relationship would change, or they don't really completely like each other at times, or they don't trust each other, or they don't, like I mentioned before, they don't seem like they trust each other. And it's such a strange relationship, and yet it's the focus of this whole story. That being said, I'm still really enjoying it. I don't know why I'm enjoying this story so much. Maybe it's the writing, maybe it's the characters. I find them very interesting, even though they're not necessarily the most likable characters. I think Patricia's a lot more likable than Lawrence, except that in Patricia's life, way fewer people like her. I do kind of feel sometimes that Lawrence doesn't deserve her as a friend. She seems way better of a person than he is. But they're still fascinating to me. And what makes them interesting is like her witchcraft and the things she's gone through that have brought her to be who she is today makes her very interesting. And of course, Lawrence is this incredibly intelligent wonderkind, and yet he is very self-conscious because he grew up as this super nerd that nobody liked. In fact, they hated him in a lot of ways. So I just find these two characters to be very interesting, and it's a good thing, because if I didn't, this would be a horrible book, like as far as my enjoyment, because you have to really be interested in these two characters to enjoy this book, because that's pretty much what this book is about. There isn't a plot. It is about this relationship and how nuanced and strange and difficult and interesting and complex it is. Like all the elements that make this strange relationship what it is, that's what this story is about. And I will say, one of the things I mentioned about this, it reminded me a lot of 100 Years of Solitude, was the magical realism and the nuance, like the weird details and the way that the story is expressed. And that's because this is magical realism. Even if it is talked about as a sci-fi or fantasy, it's still definitely magical realism. And when I talk about magical realism, what I mean is like an undefined magic that is embedded in the everyday happenings of a world. Like, it's not clearly described. It's sort of like, it's just a normal world where magic happens, that kind of thing. And I feel like even though there are these witches that bring this fantasy element to this, there's other aspects within this story that kind of feel magical that have nothing to do with this witch society. So I would consider that magical realism. And even some of the science fiction elements feel sort of magical, and not really a science fiction sort of way. And so I'd kind of say that the science fiction, this also sort of depends on magical realism in order to make sense in this story. And I looked it up and I'm like, this has got to be magical realism. And it said, yes, it's sci-fi and fantasy with magical realism. So I feel good about that. And in fact, I've decided that instead of using this for my family heritage prompt, I think I'm actually going to use it for the magical realism prompt, because to me, I think it better represents that particular prompt for TBR Trail. And I was reading The Bedlam Stacks as my magical realism book. The problem with that is I was listening to it on audiobook, and I was planning on listening to it to and from the fair every day. But the audiobook's not great because certain voices that the narrator is doing are very low. And so no matter how high I turn the volume in the car, I still can't hear certain voices. And then you get to other voices and it's really loud. So like trying to listen to that book, I was like straining to hear some of the voices, and I kept missing parts and I couldn't get it. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm not going to listen to this book on audiobook. So I'm not going to use Bedlam Stacks right now as my magical realism. I do want to read it. I do want to finish this book eventually, but it's just not going to work at the moment. And so I'm glad that this works for magical realism, because once I complete this, then I'll have my second prompt done for TBR Trail. I'm a little behind on TBR Trail, but I haven't been reading much in the last week. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to catch up, and I have an idea for my 1 week, 1 shelf next week that I will explain to you when I do that video, but I'm kind of excited about it. So it's going to be a little different. I'm going to do things a little differently. Are you ready to go on a cruise?
Woohoo! Cruise!
Woohoo! No more beer. Beer's over. Okay, well, I completely forgot to close out last night's vlog, and I will show you where I got to with All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders. I got to page 214. So I have about 100 pages left till the end of the book. Just been keeping too busy, not spending enough time reading. Now that I have fewer big plans for the next couple of weeks before school starts, I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to finish this. But tomorrow's the start of a new week, so stay tuned for that. Guess I'm adding more books on my books I haven't finished yet list. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens on week 3 of 1 Week, 1 Shelf. Which shelf am I going to go to this week? And how much am I going to actually get read off of it? That's the real question. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.